All good. Okay. So today we're having Lauren Shapiro talk to us. She's the owner of Shapiro. I hope I'm saying that right. Yeah, so here's a little bit more about Lauren. She got her undergraduate degree at Colgate University. She worked under the chief of sports medicine at New York Presbyterian, attended medical school at Florida Atlantic University, completed her residency at Tampa General Hospital, worked at Advent Health Heart of Florida, and is currently working at Montefiore Hospitals in the Bronx. She got her MD in 2018 and is currently an emergency medicine physician, but she also enjoys a range of creative outlets. So we get to see all about that today. I'm so excited.
So some just more in-depth things about Chapeau. It's wearable art and sustainable fashion. The pieces are made from collected vintage quilts and linens to give them a new life. Chapeau started as a hobby and a creative outlet that eventually turned into a business, and boutiques from all over North America carry Chapeau pieces such as Palm Beach Girls Club in Florida and Fashion United in Ottawa, Canada.
So when we were on the Chapeau website, just checking it out and doing a little bit of research, I noticed that there was this long limerick explaining Lauren's journey in founding Chapeau and creating this business. And so I wanted to share part of it because I think it's just like a nice screenshot into how she got here. So people started to contact me and compliment my jackets, but as a full-time ER doctor with a sewing business, I wasn't sure I could hack it. One-of-a-kind pieces, wearable art made with love, compassion, and all of my heart. Adding my mom and sister to help with this endeavor, just added to Chapeau to make it even better. Imagine the stories these vintage textiles could tell. Now it's your turn to make your own stories as well. So I think we're all looking forward to hearing more about that process. We do have some questions. Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. We came up with some questions we wanted to ask you. So yeah.
We can come
Yes,
back.
I put those on the last slide in my presentation so we can go over those at the end.
Okay, great.
All right, so let us welcome Ms. Lauren Shapiro. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, this is super informal. And the fact that this is your last class, I'm sure you guys are already checked out.
Absolutely not. It's just spring break. It's not their last class. It's just spring break.
Well, spring break still. We've all been there. Okay, so I will share my screen and pull up the little presentation I put together.
I like your background.
Oh, this was in the Maldives with my boyfriend. Okay. Okay. So this is just some pics. Oops, how do I get rid of all this on the side? I don't know. Oh well. Okay, so my brand's called Chapeau. The reason why it is called Chapeau is because my last name is Shapiro, and my parents spoke fluent French at some point in their life, and chapeau actually means hat in French. So we wanted to take something that took a word in the fashion industry as well as our last name and kind of gave us chapeau. So a little bit about me. I know you guys have covered a lot with our the initial presentation, but I'm the middle child of 3. So this is my sister. My brother is on the left in that far photo, and then my boyfriend is on the right, all of them wearing chapeau. So I did go to medical school in Florida and graduated in 2018. We got to do cool things like go to the Super Bowl in residency, and that picture is from match day. It's from graduation. I did my residency at Tampa General, which is a big trauma hospital in Tampa. And the reason why I even talk about, you know, residency and going to medical school and everything like that is because I actually started Shapiro while I was in my chief year in my emergency medicine residency. And I had always been interested in starting to sew, and I've always had my hand in creative outlets, including making bracelets and drawing, you name it, I've probably done it. So I even took up hand embroidery recently, but I'd always been interested in it. And finally, my boyfriend had gotten me a sewing machine. My mother and I have always had a love for antiques, including hand embroidered linens and quilts. So at that point, I decided to make my first item, which was the denim jacket with the quilted sleeves. So I had made one for my sister, and basically what happened was she was at a Super Bowl party, and someone who worked at Love Shack Fancy went up to her and said, "I love your jacket. Where'd you get it?" So, "Oh, my sister made it for me." And next thing you know, they asked for my contact information. So I actually, funnily enough, because it's my background, was in the Maldives when they had reached out to me to start doing trunk shows with them, which required me to be a real business with an EIN and a bank account and everything in order to get paid and fee split and everything. So while I was across the world, I actually created the company through LegalZoom. And next thing you know, the first trunk show or anything I ever did with Shapiro as a true legal entity was this trunk show in the Upper East Side in Manhattan. And you can see here, my whole family came out for it. The only one not pictured is my brother. And we did really well in terms of sales. At this point, the only thing I had made were denim jackets with quilted sleeves and chambray button downs with different textile sleeves as well. And we did way better than we were expecting. We sold a ton of merchandise. And from that point on, we kind of kicked it up into gear. And because we did so well with Love Shack Fancy, they kept inviting us back. So the next couple slides, I just showed a couple of our trunk shows in different locations with Love Shack all over the country. So this one was in Manhattan. This one was in the Hamptons in Sag Harbor, but we also did one in Southampton as well. This one was in Nashville. This was in Palm Beach. Can you guys see, or is there like picture? Okay, so you can't see me or yourselves. No, okay.
Normally there's different views, so they can be watching you, whoever's speaking next to this.
Okay, I didn't know because on mine I see a column of you guys, so.
Yeah, you can see that on the top right.
Okay, cool.
Like I normally do a side by side with speaker, but I also check on the students to make sure they're paying attention.
So this one's Palm Beach. And as you can see in this photo, we have the denim jacket with the quilted sleeves, a full quilt coat, and then on the far right is one of our newer products, which is a button down with patchwork handkerchief sleeves. So this was in the Manhasset store, which they invited me to be the brand to do their store opening. And moving on, during all of this, because we were starting to really turn into a true company, and at this point now I have 2 seamstresses in New York that work for me, one in Brooklyn and one in Queens. One who helps me with the quilt coats and denim jackets, and one that helps me with sweatshirts and my bombers and vests. So we actually have a lot of inventory right now, and we're in over 15 boutiques, which is really exciting. Some of these photos here to just show you guys. In the bottom left is a boutique we work with in New Jersey. It's a mother-daughter called Jagged Edge. The girl in the red quilt coat actually was someone who was working the event who loved our product so much that she bought a coat while she was there. And the two blonde ladies own a boutique in North Carolina. And then the far side is actually a woman who was also a seller at Magic Coterie who loved our pieces as well. So that was our first trade show. And then we actually just did another trade show in February, which we also did very well, and now are in 4 more boutiques than we were in prior, which was very exciting. And so these are just some photos from that as well. So our current products are, we have 2 lengths of our quilt coats, which is the Lulu is the shorter, the Annette is the longer. Then we have the Bomber, and then we have our denim jacket with quilted sleeves. Then we have our handkerchief blouse, which comes in chambray or white, chambray vintage button downs that come with different textile sleeves, sweatshirts with elbow patches, and a full sleeve quilted sweatshirt. And then we have the kids bombers, kids denim, and the onesie. And we actually have a lot of matching mommy and me's as well. So in terms of all of our materials we work with, we are mostly sustainable. So all of the quilts are antique quilts that my mother and I source all over the country at different antique shops. The denim is all vintage denim that I source anywhere, whether it be, you know, Poshmark, thrift store, antique store, you name it. I've probably bought a jean jacket from there. And our handkerchiefs I source as well at antique shops. And same with our tile sleeves. Those come from everything from hand embroidered bed sheets to tablecloths to towels, you name it. We work with all different textiles. And then the elbow patches are created from different pieces of quilt that I've used for coats. And then we had leftover pieces that I try and use to create elbow patches. So here you see pieces from a floral quilt that I had some full flowers left over that I used as elbow patches, but other ones I'll make hearts out of or different shapes and use those as elbow patches as well. And so one of the only not sustainable things that I buy new is the onesie, the body of the onesie. So a big part of how Shapiro became what it is in terms of the amount of followers on Instagram and kind of our grassroots marketing in terms of really getting our name out there and having people find our site and even buy things is through influencers, social media, other woman-owned brands that I've become friends with, and just word of mouth. So Teggy French, who's an influencer, I actually met at our September September trade show, Magic in Coterie in New York City. And she actually has an online boutique and recently made a brick and mortar store in New Jersey and bought pieces for her store and has posted about them. And she actually reached out to me. We're doing a trunk show / pop-up at the end of this month, which has driven a lot of followers to my page and to my site as well. So she was a big one. She's like 60 something thousand followers. Another one is Stephanie Gottlieb, who owns a jewelry brand. She has over 100,000 followers and I went to sleepaway camp with her. So typically you would have to pay an influencer to post. Not only would you have to gift them something, but you would also have to pay them, which because Shapiro is a very new brand, we didn't want to use our money to pay influencers yet when we've been doing really well on our own. So I reached out to people who I knew, and I gifted her this coat, and she actually posted without having to pay, which was very nice. Another person, Julie Hunt, who owns this wonderful business called Jefferson Lane, does hand embroidery on all cashmere sweaters. It's beautiful. She posts her jackets that she bought from me too, which has driven traffic my way, as well as Diana First, who is an artist who does fashion art. And I also was able to have a drawing by her, and she posted about our brand as well. So it creates a lot of brand awareness through social media, as well as when boutiques have bought from us at trade shows, they've posted on their social media and tagged us, which also drives a lot of traffic our way, which is very exciting because it's also free marketing for us as well. So the Frock Shop in Texas is one. This is Jagged Edge Boutique in New Jersey. So our best-selling products are our denim jackets and our quilt coats. So I just put up here some bigger photos of our quilt coats so you guys can see. Another thing about antique quilts is they all have different names for their patterns. So you'll see a lot of the same types of patterns, but they're all truly one-of-a-kind pieces. So we have the windmill, we have a 9-patch variation. This is grandmother's flower garden. This is called the Irish chain. This is the tulips. This is called the Lone Star. This is the postage stamp around the world. This is called the double wedding ring. This is an elongated grandmother's flower garden. This is actually a Lone Star vintage camp blanket. Another Lone Star. Lone Star. Double wedding ring. A 9-patch. Lone Star. Jacob's ladder. Grandmother's flower garden. Postage stamp. Rolling stone. 8-point star. Lone Star camp blanket. Lone Star. And so, one thing with these as well, and something that, a lot of people love about our items are that they truly are all one-of-a-kind pieces because they do come from antique quilts and linens. So I actually do a lot of commission work as well, where people will send me their family's quilts and I can turn them into quilt coats or denim jackets, baby items, anything that they are interested in. So that their quilt isn't just sitting in a cabinet, but they're actually wearing something that a family member made, which is super meaningful to them. And in terms of another thing that is really cool with being a new brand is that all of these models that you see here are new and upcoming models. So I didn't have to, and this is my sister, so I didn't have to pay them a full modeling gig amount of money. I paid them a just travel voucher and got everyone Starbucks during the shoot. And the girls were super awesome. And a lot of models will do this to build their portfolio. So, even if you don't have a huge budget to create a new brand, which I did not have a huge budget, I was able to find people to come together and help me create, a vision and a brand. So, I found a photographer who's still in college who did all my photos, and she's incredible. This was my bunkmate from college. From sleepaway camp. So, we have a lot of grassroots efforts going into creating Chapeau, but it's really shown to do well. And I think that one exciting thing, and I think the message to you guys, being that you're interested in fashion and creating a career out of fashion, is that if I can do it, you can do it. Because I am, full-time emergency medicine physician who kind of went with an idea of something that I loved and was passionate about, and was able to turn it into what it is today, which is a brand that, we've been present now for 1 year, and it's been really exciting. And, I do it with my mom and my sister now. My sister's an intellectual property attorney, and she works at Skadden, which is a big firm in the city. And my mom is the best mom and housewife, and she said that Chapeau has given her a whole new life. So, it's definitely something that if you have an idea, it's definitely possible to make it into something that you really want and can have. So, that's probably my biggest message for today. And then if anyone wants anything from the website, I made a little special coupon for you guys that will be on the site for the next 2 days. So if you guys want anything, or you can just DM me. My Instagram is @shopchapeau. And so I figured I put your questions on here too, so I can go through these too, or if anyone else has any questions, please feel free.
Let's start off with some of these questions, and then as you all have questions, why don't you raise your hands, or you can write them in the chat, and we'll go from there.
Great. Okay. So what inspired me to use secondhand materials is quilts at baseline are secondhand materials because they are all antique and vintage. And because we were starting with that, we wanted it to be a sustainable brand. And our first jacket was one that we had already owned that we just essentially cut off the sleeves. And from that, we decided we wanted all of our denim, all of our chambray, everything to be upcycled, and that we would be a sustainable company, which was really exciting, and has, there's so many movements right now for sustainable fashion, slow fashion, upcycling, and restoration, things like that. And I think that it's really important for the environment as well, and we love it. So and then in terms of expanding the company into different garments, we slowly have been branching out. Initially, we were just denim and chambray with different sleeves. Now we have the quilt coats, the bombers, we have vests, we have the handkerchief blouses. So right now, I think we're capped. One thing that I do have as well that I didn't put on the site is that we do quilted tote bags as well. And again, we use the scraps from leftover quilts from our quotes or any of our other projects to make those. We really try and use everything from all pieces. I even leftover denim from the cut off sleeves I use as patches and to make labels and things like that. Even my labels I embroider on antique linens too. So everything is upcycled, which is really fun, and everything's different too. Okay, how did I begin to start my own business? Well, I'm by trade an ER doctor and knew nothing about business at all. Some of you guys are in business school, so which is awesome. My brother has his MBA, and my boyfriend did MBA undergrad. So they were my mentors in terms of actually starting the business and telling me what I needed to do in order for it to be successful. I really did just use LegalZoom, which is hilarious because, it's just an online platform to create your own business, but it really worked. And I was able to have all my proper certificates and EIN and everything to create a true business. Another thing that I used as well to create my online platform was GoDaddy. If I were to start over again, I probably would have used the Shopify platform. And I still may transfer over, but I made my website myself, and it took my blood, sweat, and tears to make it because I am not technologically savvy in terms of creating a website. But it definitely was worth it. And then in terms of what I did to get my name out there, kind of like what I told you guys already, nothing has really been paid marketing or advertising at this point. It's been a lot of word of mouth, boutiques publishing things on their social media, influencers who have bought my stuff, things like that, which has been really great. Something that I try to do as well, which actually worked today. I posted a picture of myself in a coat with a cowboy hat I'd bought at this specialty store in Colorado. And I tagged them and they reposted. So they reposted something of me in my coat from my business account, which also drives people to my site, which is free. So I try and do that as well whenever I'm wearing a coat and I'm at a restaurant or I'm at, you know, a certain spot, or I'm wearing something particular that I think that I could get a repost from that business, I'll do it. And I've had a lot of good luck with them reposting, which is really great because it's free advertising. Let's see, what resources do I use to stay engaged and up to date with design and trends and news? If I'm being completely honest, I would say, like, look at fashion as in terms of, you know, what's up and coming. I'm a big shopper myself. I do love clothing. So I'm always looking at what's the latest things in terms of trends. I also have been going to these trade shows, which show all the newest trends for, I mean, the trade show I was just at in February was all fall. So I saw all of the pieces that are coming out in fall. The thing with, you know, Chapeau is that most of our stuff is more classics rather than trend, even though quilts are definitely a hot item right now. It's definitely trendy. These are kind of a forever piece, and they definitely are investment pieces because they're expensive. And in terms of the design trend itself, I would say that ours are more staples rather than trend. So we don't really have anything changing in terms of that. And then what lessons have I learned from previous work experience? Well, I don't know how much you guys know about medical school or residency, but you just basically work your butt off 24/7. So I'm used to many hours working like crazy. It's funny because now being a full attending, my technical full time in the ER is 10, 12-hour shifts a month, which is nothing compared to what I did in residency and even in my prior job before moving to New York. So I actually, all my time that I am not spending in the ER, I actually spend on Chapeau. So I spend like half the month in the ER and half the month on Chapeau. So I'm definitely very busy. And thankfully I haven't had to use any life-saving measures in any of my trunk shows. But a lot of the girls that work at the stores that I've had pop-ups at end up asking me questions, and I'll fix their infected earrings for them. But other than that, hopefully my emergency medicine does not follow me into my fashion.
Yeah, keep them separate. I think that's safe.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that we have you in our fashion world.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. So I want to introduce Michael. He had a really good question. So
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah, so I was wondering, so since all the items you make are unique, how does that like affect how much you can produce or how much you have
Yeah.
available online?
it's that's the hardest part. So a lot of boutiques that reach out to me are always like, okay, so how many of these can I order? And I always say to them, well, you can order as many as you want, but what you see is what you get. So everything is one of a kind. And I say to them, I can find different variations of what you want. Usually I can find some sort of piece that I can have a similar item, but these truly are one of a kind pieces. So I actually, a lot of times with boutiques, will do FaceTime and Zoom to show them the available pieces. And actually a lot of time I use my website almost as like an online line sheet for boutiques to see my available items. And from that, they can pick what they want to buy for their boutiques. It's definitely difficult because, you know, the most expensive part of any of these items is the quilts. The quilts are range up to like $450. So for me, sometimes it's really hard to even wholesale these pieces. And ideally, in an ideal world, I don't even want to wholesale, but because wholesaling creates more awareness of my brand and getting my coats out there, and people wearing my items are the best advertising possible because they are showstoppers. They just, even I was just traveling from Colorado yesterday and I wore this coat on the plane and I ran out of cards because people are always saying like, that is amazing. Where'd you get that? And I'm like, well, I actually have a fashion company. And they're like, oh my God, I need your card. Because, you know, if you look at can you see me right now? Okay, so the back of my coat is one of the Lone Stars. So it's definitely something that's, people are like, where'd that come from? Where can I get one? And you see all the hand stitching. So it truly is a unique piece. In terms of the boutiques, Michael, it's difficult, it's hard. The nice thing about my pieces is all of the quilt coats, not the bombers, just this quilt coat itself, the short and long, the Lulu and the Annette, are one size fits all. So we have people like the models that you see in them, or some of them are like double extra small. And then we've had up to a triple XL where some of our pieces, because they're antique quilts, they all have like a different amount of like loftiness and like texture, I guess you could say, to them. So this one's, you know, super loose, but some are a little more rigid. Some of them are a little thicker, thinner. So again, they'll all fit a teeny bit different. But I worked with an expert pattern maker to create a design that truly is one size fits all, which is really nice. So once the boutiques actually just see the pattern, they can pick these coats for their store without a problem.
Love that. Great question, Michael.
That was a good question. That's actually like the hardest part for sure.
We have a question about what the process looks like. So you go thrifting and antiquing, you get the jackets, the jackets, you get the quilts. Mm-hmm. What happens from there? What does the process look like from like beginning to end?
Yeah, so what did it used to look like? Very messy. What it looks like now is a very streamlined process. So do you want to know like when I first started the company or how it is now?
No, how it is now is good.
Yeah, so I'm not going to take you into my quilt room, but I have a stack of uncut quilts that I've just been sourcing. If I find one that I'm like, this will be a great jacket, I love this, I buy it. And I probably have close to 30 uncut quilts right now, but I also have an inventory of a ton of merchandise right now because I have a lot of, am I still on screen share?
Yes, you are.
So I have a lot of trunk shows coming up. So if you can see, I have a pop-up with Teggy French at the end of this month. And then I also have another pop-up with Love Shack Fancy in April. I'm booking for June and July with Love Shack Fancy in the Hamptons. So we're constantly busy and we're constantly having shows. So we do need that merchandise. And I do work with a lot of boutiques that as soon as they sell out their merchandise, they reach out to me to buy more. So, in terms of, sorry, I divert. The process is we source the materials, and I make all of my own labels. So all my labels, do I have something nearby? Let's see. So all of my labels are embroidered on different antique linens. So this is like an applique flower that was on an antique handkerchief. And then I have a lot that are embroidered, like hand embroidered linens that I buy at antique stores. I try not to spend more than like $1 on any of the labels. So a lot of like antique stores will have handkerchiefs or napkins or something that are hand embroidered that will have a mark on them. So they sell them for like $1 because you can't use it as a napkin, but I can use them as a label. And then, so from that, I make all the labels. I have my pattern that I had worked with the pattern maker to create. So it depends on the garment, but let's just say we're making a quilt coat. So we lay it out and we use the pattern and cut it the way we want the pattern to look. For like Lone Stars, we put the star in the middle of the back. And then we straight stitch, we serge, we put on the label. All of our jackets have pockets too, which is nice. And then from there, I reach out to my photographer who is in college at Fordham and is excellent. And then I'll reach out to, I've had 2 photo shoots so far, and I'm going to be booking a 3rd soon to shoot my new merchandise. And then it goes on my site, and that's kind of it.
Awesome. So is there ever like a lull in finding quilts, or are they like plentiful?
It's funny. I wouldn't say there's a lull, because a lot of people sell quilts online and through social media. There, like, you can find quilts on eBay, you could find them, but the problem is because of the cost of the quilts that are being resold, it makes it very expensive, and it makes it so that I can't sell my products for what I want to sell them at. Like, I would have to sell them for more. And one of the things that I love about Chapeau and about, having a brand is that I want people to be able to buy the things. I don't want it to be something that's unattainable. Yes, I know that it's expensive of what I sell, like my price points are high, but comparatively to other people who make quilt coats and who are doing, quilted items, our prices are lower. And that was important to me. So when I go out and buy quilts, I try and do it so that it's something that I'm going to be able to actually sell for a price that's reasonable. But there's no lull in terms of if you wanted to buy a quilt tomorrow, you could buy a quilt.
Okay, cool. Karina, did you have a question?
Yes. First, thank you for sharing. I found it all very interesting. My question was, do you also buy the denim jackets somewhere, like secondhand? And if you do, have you ever had problems with the brands that have made them? Have they recognized that it's like their product and you have used it like secondhand and created something new?
So it's funny that you ask that, because I thought the same thing. And since my sister is an intellectual property attorney, I actually was able to ask her, because a lot of the vintage denim I use is Levi's, because there's brand recognition, knowing that it's a good denim brand. So I was worried that because I use a lot of Levi's materials, could I technically be sued by Levi's? Her first thing she said was, "You're way too small of a company for them to care." And I said, okay, true. But the second thing is that I'm not buying the denim jackets from Levi's to then use myself. I'm buying them from someone who's already bought them. So if they're, let's just say I found one in XYZ antique shop. That antique shop is carrying that jacket because it's already been bought by someone else and being sold there. So once it leaves the true retailer, let's say Levi's hands, and enters into, let's just say Joe's hands, it's no longer Levi's, it's Joe's. So because I'm buying it from Joe, it's no longer something that can be like a copyright problem.
It's so interesting. How awesome to have your sister who does that on your side to know all of
I know. It's just very random how that happened. So, and she's my model, which is even better because I don't have to pay her. I pay her in quilt coats.
it works all around. It works
Yeah.
all around. Who else has a question? It's 5:43. So in interest of time, we probably have time for 2 more questions.
I have a quick question.
Awesome.
This is more just like a silly question, but do you ever, while you're antiquing, run into a quilt that you love the pattern of, but there's like a stain or it smells like cigarette smoke or something like that? And what do you do about that?
Oh, all the time. I'm just trying to see if I have one near me. Don't have one near me right now, that because most of my stuff that I have near me right now is already made into jackets and stuff. But that's actually a really good question. All my quilts I wash. Not one of them has not been washed. You know, it's because of the nature, a lot of them are newer that can be machine washed and dry and put in the dryer. A lot of them are really delicate. Some of the older ones, like from the 1800s, they have to be hand washed and hung dry. But everything is washed. Nothing is touching anyone's bodies without being washed. So that's first. Second, in terms of damage, that's actually a really good question because obviously if something is damaged, it's less expensive, right? So there are some quilts that I buy damaged. They're called cutters. It's very common for a lot of people that are, you know, creating clothing from upcycled materials to buy damaged textiles to use. I tend to try and stay away from things that are super damaged for any of my true like adult quilt coats because I sit at home and hand stitch them if there's a rip or something that I've done in the past was I have a friend who's a professional hand embroiderer and there was a big hole in the middle of one of the stars on the back and I had her embroider a flower over the hole so there would no longer be a hole. But yes, there are definitely ones that I love that I don't buy because they're too distressed. And then there are definitely ones I do buy that are cutters that I do use for merchandise. And then everything gets washed and some things do smell, let me tell you, like washed a couple times. So
That's such a great question, Sarah, because I feel like we've all been in that situation, right? Where like
Right.
love something, but it's stained and we're like, oh, right in the middle, it's stained. Or it smells.
well, that's actually, I wonder if I can pull up the photo to show you guys. One of my favorite things was turning one of our jackets into that, you know, was damaged into an embroidered flower, and it was really, really wonderful. But yes, there are definitely ways to work around things that are stained and or damaged. There was one quote I loved that had some pieces. So all of these are like individual hand pieced pieces of fabric. So each triangle is not only hand pieced, but then it's hand quilted. So sometimes you'll get like one square, like one triangle or one piece that is completely distressed. And what I'll do for those, sometimes I'll take a piece of fabric and I'll just hand stitch it in to create, like there was nothing, no problem there. Sometimes it's hard with the colors. Sometimes I can take it from a piece of the quilt that's not being used from the jacket, so it's the same. But I do work around things that have holes and stains.
That sounds like a lot of hard work, but that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, I didn't start Chapeau to like make it a super, you know, successful business in terms of, you know, monetary value. I really started it because I love it and I have a passion for antiques. I have multiple antique collections. Between my mom and I, we're like hoarders. But I think that, you know, when you do have a passion for it, it's like very exciting. And it's, you know, you guys are all in the want to be in the fashion industry. I had no visibility of being in the fashion industry, and it kind of just was thrust upon me. So I think that also hard work pays off, right? So I always say, because people are always like, oh my God, you're a doctor? Like that must have taken you so long. I'm like, yeah, it did take me a really long time. But I also think that anything that's worth doing takes a lot of hard work. I mean, there are times that I've been up all night working on pieces because I'm shipping them out the next day, and I like customize all my orders. I like hand wrap them. I embroider people's names on them to send them out. Like I customize each piece that goes out because I think people feel special when everything is super customized. And I think that's something special that I like to do for people that, you know, buy my items. But, you know, anything that, you know, you really put your heart into it's worth it. So,
I love that message. Thank you.
yeah.
I think we have
then,
one last question from Angelina, if that's okay.
you guys want anything, let me know.
Yay! I'm so excited about that. I started following the with the cowboy hat and the
Yeah, right. Well, I brought a bunch of coats to Colorado for my sister to model in the snow, and they turned out so good that I've just been posting them.
Beautiful. Angelina, you want to ask your question? Would be the last one.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if we like had time, but hi. Before I ask my question, I just want to say you are like so awesome. I don't know how else to phrase it, but you're just very inspiring. I love your whole story and I loved hearing about it. My question is more so about like your models. I know you had mentioned that a lot of your models are like new and upcoming or your sister. So I was wondering, what is that process like finding them? Because like you require like a portfolio or anything like that.
So it's actually funny that you ask that. So when I first decided to do a photo shoot, my first photo shoot was strictly all friends and family, except for one model, this girl that I found on Instagram. And I literally typed into Instagram, NYC model, and she came up. I'm not even kidding. And she's super cool. Her name is Sydney. Like we're friends now, but it's just funny because that's literally how I found the one model. In terms of like, this is my sister. This is my bunkmate for like 10 years at Sleepaway Camp. This is her again. This girl is one of my best friend's cousins who actually works for Vogue. It's just like very random. But my second photo shoot was this girl who's an up and coming model who actually works in IT. This girl who's an up and coming model. This girl who's an up and coming model and is an actress on Broadway. This girl who's an up and coming model. And basically how I found the up and coming models in my second photo shoot was I reached out to my photographer and was like, hey, I'm going to do another shoot. Do you know any models that are looking to just have stuff for their portfolio? And she's like, let me reach out to people. And next thing you know, I had 4 models ready for a photo shoot that I just had to pay them a travel stipend. So, yeah, I got lucky. This is the answer.
Pretty
And
simple.
I also got very lucky with my seamstresses too. They're the best.
I love what you said too about like, it's kind of your network, right? Use your classmates, go over to the photography section. Hey,
Yes.
take pictures. You could take pictures of me. I'll be the model and you can use them in your portfolio and then I could use them in my portfolio. Kind of.
Yes, seriously. I mean, it's so true. Like I cannot stress enough how like very much so grassroots Chapeau was. Like we have not spent barely any money on photo shoots, marketing. Like honestly, the most money we've spent on marketing was to be part of the trade show at the Javits Center in New York. So, but we made up that money by selling to boutiques that were there. So it was kind of,
Exactly. It paid for
but
it.
seriously, if you guys ever, let me write, if you guys ever have like questions, I mean, I don't know, you probably have people that are better at answering questions about business than me, but like, if you guys ever have any questions, this is my cell.
Oh, Lauren, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super casual, like nothing, so feel free to text me if you have any questions about anything.
Definitely follow at Shop Chapeau.
Oh yeah, follow me on Insta.
Yep, it's really a beautiful Instagram. It really is. It's colorful, it's like upscale, it's beautiful. And thank you so much for being here, taking the time. I know
you for having me.
You're a doctor and you're a designer and you kind of do it all, a woman that wears many hats, but we really
I go to my night shift for ER tomorrow.
You really are an inspiration, and I'm getting a lot of private messages saying how inspiring you are right now. So thank you so much.
I promise you though, guys, like, yes, it might seem like I'm like an inspiration, whatever, but really like I'm very normal. And like, if I can do it, you guys 100% can do it. And just the biggest thing I could emphasize is just following what interests you and what your passion is, because once you do that, it doesn't feel like work. It's more exciting, and it might stress you out, which I've been stressed at times, don't get me wrong, but it's more exciting than like true stress.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And
yeah, enjoy spring break, guys.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Enjoy your spring break.
Yeah.
And I will see you when we get back.
Happy 21st birthday, whoever said it was their birthday.
Thank you.
Don't drink too much.
I won't. Don't worry. I'll be